Every day, more and more people are making use of the oceans. It's where we swim, dive, sail, and surf. We exploit the oceans both directly and indirectly. We depend on them for construction, food, and transportation, and also for our leisure activities. The impact of human activity on the oceans has never been as destructive as it is today. Chemical pollution, noise pollution, overfishing, global warming, acidification, mass tourism, excessive industrial exploitation. All of these factors weigh heavily on the marine ecosystem and denature their relationships, and oftentimes before we even get the chance to understand them. But when it comes to emergency conservation efforts, when an individual or an entire species' life is threatened, can we really just allow ourselves to remain neutral? To let nature do its job and not intervene under the pretext that we should just let nature take its course? Should we just leave it to natural selection, even though modern societies have altered, influenced, and placed increased pressure on the selection process? All over the world, ecosystems are suffering more and more from the influence of human activity. We all need to be more conscious of the results of our actions. Every year during the austral winter between June and September, the humpback whales return to the waters of the French Polynesia. It marks the end of a long journey which they started several months before in the Antarctic Ocean. Every year since the late 80s, there have been a growing number of humpback whales returning to these waters, which they had deserted a long time ago. They are coming here for the comfort of the tropical waters, to court, mate, and give birth, under the watchful eye of passionate nature tourists. But even in paradise, things might not always go according to plan. In the Bay of Fare, near Huahine Island, a serious drama is unfolding. For the last several days, a lost whale calf has been swimming all alone underneath the boats moored at this site. She is only a few days old, and her mother is nowhere to be found. Deprived of her mother's reassuring silhouette, she seeks out what most closely resembles it, the hulls of the boats moored at the site. But without maternal protection or milk, she is certain to die. The tourists and sailors witnessing this tragedy contacted the local authorities. And fate would have it that the Polynesian Marine Mammals Study Group was already in the area, conducting a seasonal census of humpback whales.
Écoute, l'histoire de cette baleine, en fait, c'est un bébé, hein, donc, qui a été abandonné. Je sais, tout ce que j'en sais pas grand-chose sur l'histoire, c'est qu'elle est née il n'y a pas longtemps. Elle doit avoir peut-être 2 semaines ou peut-être un peu plus. Elle a été perdue. Donc sa mère, pour une raison X, généralement pour des histoires de bagarres entre mâles, ou pour la possession de la femelle, etc., elle a dû être écartée de sa mère et s'est perdue. Le problème, c'est que cet animal mourait de faim. Là, depuis dimanche, elle est arrivée très, très amaigrie, donc avec la peau ulcérée, avec pas mal de petits problèmes.
For Alan Portal, president of the Polynesian Marine Mammals Study Group, hope is slim. The only hope for this whale would be to find another group that adopts her, or better yet, her biological mother. And time is running out. With every passing minute, the whale calf keeps growing weaker. She hasn't eaten for several days, and there haven't been any other whales spotted in the area. What more could be done? This question keeps haunting everyone. Keep waiting for fate to show its mercy in hopes of a reunion? Keep waiting, because time is precisely what is lacking here. Tino has been watching the rescue efforts from the beach. He's come to offer his help with one idea in mind: buy more time.
Donc il y a eu un moment de surprise où on n'a pas su trop quoi faire, puis finalement on s'est décidé à essayer de la nourrir. On a fait quelques essais techniques, je dirais.
Feeding a whale calf in distress by hand has never been attempted before in nature. For the small whale, it is vital that this phase proves to be a success. Winning this brief reprieve could buy some time to find an adoptive group. Tino and Alan are all well aware of the importance of their efforts and the animal's vulnerability. Tino very carefully begins by swimming next to the whale calf to earn her trust. The objective is simple: insert a hose into the animal's mouth to siphon food from a container sitting on the deck of the boat. Simple yet complicated, because there's nothing instinctive about it for the animal.
Kami may tayo terara dia mitra hoda mo animera merarhai pepera ti tamatawa horo tuyo na tutubaha ufat ime wenu waporo ya na terapan ye hitu horu di tera pope ada tapi no de horo hayo aku ya na tu haru to yo tu haru to.
Tout ça, ça se fait évidemment avec une autorisation. On n'a pas le droit en Polynésie de nourrir les cétacés. C'est une mesure de protection. On a fait la proposition à la DIREN qui a accepté de nourrir, de redonner des forces à cet animal avant d'essayer de le réintroduire dans son monde à elle, puisqu'on va pas la garder avec nous.
After several attempts, they have earned the whale calf's trust, and she lets them approach her. For the first time, she accepts the hose, lets them feed her for a few seconds. For the team, it's a big relief. It means they have bought a bit more time to better handle the situation.
I was sleeping in the garden when I saw you first. He put me deep, deep under so that he could work. And like the dawn, you broke the dark, my whole earth shook.
The next day, while some of the volunteers were preparing the meals, other members of the association were trying to lure the whale calf under their boat to facilitate feeding and medical treatment. The team took advantage of the wind to avoid using the motor and let the boat drift towards the whale calf, hoping that the movement of the boat would attract her towards them. Everything seemed to be going as planned until suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the young whale decided on her own to clear the last few meters separating her from the boat.
Voilà, ça n'a pas été facile avec le vent et tout. En fait, ce qu'on a fait, on a rallongé notre amarre un maximum. On a trouvé une grande amarre pour se rapprocher du bateau bleu. Et en fait, j'ai l'impression elle est attirée par le petit bateau, la Caroline Skiff, là, tu sais, le petit bateau de Tino, là. Donc on a fait le lien entre les deux bateaux avec ce petit bateau et du coup, elle est venue sous notre bateau, quoi. Et après, on a remonté la mare tout doucement pour revenir sur notre mouillage. Le problème, c'est qu'entre-temps, elle allait se foutre sous le trimaran à côté, mais on a réussi à la faire venir. Voilà. Donc, c'est des grosses étapes à chaque fois, mais au moins, on a réussi celle-là, quoi. Voilà.
Back to the mooring, but this time accompanied by the whale calf. The efforts to feed her can finally be resumed.
C'est lui qui va manger ça.
But this time, the siphon won't start. The mixture of enriched milk made by the volunteers is too viscous and pasty to flow correctly through the hose. So they decide to dilute it, even though that will diminish its concentration in nutrients. In normal conditions, humpback whale milk is extremely rich and can have up to 36% fat content.
Ça marche. Elle est trop, ouais. Je croyais qu'elle allait refermer la gueule, tu vois. Et en fait, elle a ouvert très grand. Et en fait, du coup, elle a lâché le tuyau.
While nursing in normal conditions, a mother whale ejects her milk directly into the ocean, because humpback whales don't have a nipple or any other way to feed their calves. This time, the whale calf does not swim away. She has accepted that she has to be fed by humans, and she lets them put the hose in her mouth. This type of behavior has never been seen before. There's something just a bit surreal about this dance that they're putting on. It's a dance against death, a dance for the survival of a symbolic figure. Surprisingly, she seems to recognize her caregivers and approaches them with her mouth wide open, ready to bite down on the hose. She has also learned how to squeeze the hose in her mouth to keep it from falling out. Step by step, she is growing stronger.
Well, I was sleeping in the garden when I saw you first. He put me deep, deep under so that he could work. And like the dawn, you broke the dark, my whole earth shook. Well, I was sleeping in the garden when I saw you. I was sleeping in the garden when I saw you first. He put me deep, deep under so that he could work. And like the dawn, I was sleeping in the garden when I saw you.
Donc c'est une initiative un peu collective, je dirais. C'est un peu tout le monde qui a donné, qui a fait quelque chose, qui a donné des idées, la main à la pâte, etc. Et aujourd'hui, c'est un petit peu toute la population de Huahine qui s'occupe de ce baleineau. Voilà, nous on essaie un petit peu d'organiser un peu que ça soit pas trop stressant quand même pour l'animal.
Conrad Savels, veterinarian on the island, has come to volunteer his aid to examine the animal.
J'ai su ça il y a 2-3 jours maintenant, en soirée, qu'une baleine est arrivée sous un des voiliers. Donc je m'y suis rendu à la nage, j'ai vu la bête et puis après, le lendemain, je suis rentré en contact avec les gens du groupement de la défense et c'est à partir de ce moment-là que tout s'est petit à petit organisé. Aujourd'hui, je la trouve clairement mieux qu'il y a 48 heures. Il me semble qu'elle est plus remplie et son poids est stabilisé, voire légèrement augmenté. Elle est beaucoup plus gaie, elle bouge, elle est en confiance, elle s'amuse, elle mange bien, donc je la trouve mieux, hein, clairement.
Il fermait les yeux.
Hein? Elle a trop mangé, tu penses?
Elle a pas faim.
Hunger is no longer a threat, but her caregivers are going to quickly run into another problem.
Non, je me suis... Oh, je vais en choper encore. C'est vraiment des horreurs ces trucs. C'est alien, tu sais. On se prend trop. C'est de la science-fiction.
The whale calf has thousands of whale lice burrowing into the wounds that are all over her body. Small parasitic copepods are slowly eating away at her and grab onto anything that swims by them.
Oui, donc la baleine elle a pas mal de blessures. Et dans les blessures se sont nichés des poux de baleine, comme des petits scorpions. C'est bête assez tenace. Ça s'accroche apparemment dès que ça trouve quelque chose à s'accrocher. Sur tes doigts ou les gants, sur la brosse, et puis ça y reste. Mais aussi, dès que tu les décroches, ça flotte dans l'eau et ça s'agrippe à ton corps ou tes jambes. Et voilà, donc, vu de près, il y avait des traînées énormes sur son corps, sur plein de plis, et surtout dans les lésions. Depuis 48 heures, depuis hier, on a commencé à brosser la baleine. D'abord, je suis allé au gant avec un gant. Et à la fin, la brosse, elles se sont décrochées par centaines. Et donc là, on a recontrôlé les plaies aujourd'hui. C'est vrai que c'est propre, c'est beaucoup mieux. On en a encore enlevé là, ce matin et cet après-midi, mais c'est beaucoup mieux. Elle a l'air d'apprécier ça. Il n'y en a plus tant que ça. Et on a commencé à appliquer un peu de pommade cicatrisante dans les lésions qui sont déjà beaucoup plus propres qu'hier. Donc je trouve que de ce côté-là, ça s'arrange pas mal, hein. Il y a du progrès.
Without the help of these volunteers, without the help of these men and women, the whale calf would already be dead. But what should we think about this human intervention? How can we know for sure that the treatment she received and the food that she was fed were both appropriately adapted to her needs?
Je pense qu'il n'y a personne qui pourra te le dire. C'est un peu de l'improvisation, question de bon sens. Je pense que le premier soin, c'est de respecter sa tranquillité, d'éviter qu'elle ne se stresse. Et il y a beaucoup de monde autour par moment, il faut qu'on évite ça.
Regardless of the animal's condition, rumors quickly spread through the island. Many curious spectators flocked to the area and were often getting far too close.
Ai tati te tō whaarara anō e tātou hoa te whenua ne. Tēnō tunu ārātere I ha tō tātou tā piripiri roa I pio a utire hei. Me ore hui ko hoa te pepe ani mara tātou tōra. E mira trau ea anan hei wahau whaamu ahau iana I ha tō tātou tā piri me pio. Nō te atiar a pēharu metera. Tere maruru.
Alors pour ces vacances, on demande à la population de rester à peu près à 100 mètres, hein, les bateaux à moteur, de rester dans un périmètre de 100 mètres autour du bateau et de la baleine. Et ensuite, pour ce qui est des nageurs et des kayaks, d'essayer aussi d'être raisonnable et de ne pas s'approcher en trop grand nombre. Voilà, merci.
S'il vous plaît.
In spite of the safety precautions, some swimmers are still getting far too close, thus running the risk of disturbing the whale's much-needed time to recover, and also of exposing themselves to the parasites. They seem willing to compromise the rescue efforts just to get a good look at the whale or to take a photograph.
Te tutono mera te pepe tora. Tute e moare ai moa te e piti mahana tō e pene a iria e hoi med mama te metua. Te mitu e trau e whahoi pio te metua e tua.
J'espère qu'on va réussir à lui faire retrouver son environnement naturel, ce qui est un peu utopique. Donc il faut quand même garder les deux pieds sur terre et se dire que cette opération risque d'être un échec. Mais bon, tant qu'il y a de la vie, il y a de l'espoir.
Unfortunately, in the morning of the fourth day, the whale calf lied down on the ocean floor and never came back up. In spite of the volunteers' efforts to keep her alive, she succumbed to her weakening condition. Malnutrition, asthenia, open wounds, solitude, there are many very plausible causes. For the team, it's very hard to accept. But what more could we do? In the last century, industrial whaling reduced the population of humpback whales to about 90%. In other words, humpback whales suffered from such a human and non-natural selection that they nearly went extinct. Since 1986, humpback whale populations have been recovering, and in 2008, their classification changed from endangered to least concerned. All the same, it is difficult to actually measure the consequences of whaling after having hunted them down for so many years. It's now our responsibility to protect them. And why not, if it's in our power, give one that is certainly condemned to death a second chance at life.
Mais bon, voilà, c'est les lois de la nature. Donc après, advienne que pourra. On aura fait ce qu'on a pu en tout cas.
And even though we did not succeed, all of the time we spent working towards this eventual failure is a gift of compassion to our neighbors living in the oceans. And that is something we could all definitely use more of.